I do have a question for baseball.
Do it.
Do you think there's any world in which, after this long road trip, that you kind of lay an egg against Southeastern?
Do I think there's a world? Yeah, of course. Do I think they're going to? No.
Oh, and who pitches? Because I think that the freshman that you saw...
He's pitching.
He's going to throw again?
Why wouldn't he? It's playing tomorrow. It's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
He's pitching.
Why wouldn't he?
That's a week rest, normal rest.
That I understand, but I'm wondering if they start moving him towards a weekend rotation.
Well,
type
not
of
after-
guy.
I think you continue to lengthen him out right there, and then maybe as time kind of goes. But I would imagine because of what you got out of Gage Jump in a start on Saturday, I think also kind of pushes him. I won't say pushes him, but keeps him in that spot and kind of keeps that going. Because if they can keep extending that guy, okay, we got something here.
Yeah, I think what you saw from the rotation this weekend, I think there's no reason to move it around anymore for right now. I think that Friday, Saturday, you have righty, lefty, righty, and you're right.
Anderson's another lefty.
No, I know, I understand that, but you got.
But you have just so many dudes you can mix and match without a pin. There's no need to push another lefty into the line. I mean, into the
right now because nobody's throwing bad enough to leave the rotation.
Right.
Holman's All-American style, like he's throwing.
I don't think he'll be a starter. I was just wondering if he's going to be one of these long relievers, like a Nate Ackenhausen.
No.
You got
Donovan Herring, Sam.
If it comes to that, you can go ahead and just pencil that in for like the back third of the season when they start needing him in there and you start getting rid of the SEC games. But I think they'll do their best if they can keep him in this spot because he can get all the work he needs in this spot.
That's the thing. You're going to be able to develop him more in that spot as a starter because I think he is going to be a starter for them at some point, whether it's this year, next year, whenever. But I mean, he looked really good. Now he's going to have his breaking ball is good, but he's going to have to figure it out how to throw more for strikes and how to be able to control it more because I think he threw, how many did you say?
Seven or eight.
Seven or eight breaking balls he threw on Wednesday.
Yeah, it was a lot of heaters.
All heaters, which is great. He works fast, throws up, controls it. But once he starts controlling that,
that's even more reason to, hey, all right, let's keep him in that, keep him in the spot.
What was the other question you asked me?
I think that was it.
Oh, I thought you asked another one. Oh, the lay and egg thing. That was the first one.
Well, that was previous too, because I think if you throw Cade Anderson, it's kind of like you get 5 or 6 innings of, okay, this guy's not your normal Wednesday night guy. And for Southeastern, I feel like everybody is, and I wanted to ask Bear this, but it feels like they're kind of almost disrespected to a point where they don't believe that the same LSU that got off the bus in 2023 is getting off the bus in 2024 because you can look at the names. You're like, oh, they don't have schemes, they don't have crews, but this is a totally different way to kill you.
It's not going to be the same. It's just going to – now, being the same doesn't mean that you're
dead, you're dead.
Not good. It's just going to look a little different, but you're going to be really good. You know what I mean? You're going to be able to win games, do things that you may want that you did last year, just in a different style.
Yeah, their method to the madness this year is a little bit different, but it's just as effective if it's rolling the entire way. And I think kind of people are kind of seeing that a little bit from the outside looking in, right? If you're sitting here looking at it, you're like, well, who's the guys? All right, we know a couple of these names from last year, but then there's so many other guys mixed in. But, oh, wow, they're all doing pretty well. And then you look at the mound and you're like, boy, they got arms for days over there. Okay, so it's not the same team. But this is a very, very, very dangerous team, just as they were last year as well.
Yeah. But, look, midweek games are always tough. Southeastern's coming off a big win against ECU.
I would honestly imagine, like, they're obviously never going to say that. And a lot of teams, especially in-state schools and teams that they're going to play in the midweek, they're going to throw all the eggs in the basket to be able to win that game. But I would imagine this year more than any, well, this is the year you don't really want it. Because they got arms for days, bro. If they can throw a Cade Anderson at you, if they can throw all of these guys out of the pen that they can throw at you because they're all going to be fresh and ready to go again by Friday, if they could do that, man, it's going to be tougher for us. That we don't have to basically get the bottom of the barrel on a midweek game. We don't get to feast on something. We're going to have to actually face another quality arm. So it becomes tougher task for those teams in the midweek games to face this LSU team.
I know it's early, but have you all seen an LSU pitching staff this deep?
No, we've said that.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
I've never seen a college pitching staff this deep. Not an LSU pitching staff. And that's what I meant. That's when I asked the question. It was, it's one thing to be able to be like, hey man, we got this one dude, bro. We know he's down there. He don't have great stuff, but if he's on and he can hit spots, he's deadly. They got like 9, 10 dudes who the stuff is crazy, and if they're anywhere competitive, it's almost lights out in a college game, right? Like that's not normal. You usually see 3 or 4 guys, and the rest of the guys that kind of compete and maybe more grit than stuff. You've seen a lot of guys with a ton of stuff, and you just hope the grit can match the stuff because then you got something that's crazy.
So I think that the only way I can't really compare because I'm with you. I think this is the most depth that they've had. LSU's for sure, like top to bottom talent. This reminds me of like Vandy, right? Like the middle 2010s of Vandy. Whenever they're putting out their midweek guy was a first rounder, ended up being a first rounder, and I still don't think they had the depth in the bullpen that LSU has. But that's the only thing I can like from when I played, when I saw it, the only thing I can compare it to because like Vandy, my junior year, Vandy had my junior year, Vandy had 3 first rounders in their rotation.
In that same year?
Yeah. So they had Sonny Gray was their Friday night guy. They had
David Price?
No, I forgot who their Saturday guy, but their Sunday guy was Grayson Garvin, who actually was SC Pitcher of the Year that year. He was like 58th overall, supplemental first round. And I forgot who their other one was, but they had 3 guys that got drafted in the first round that year.
But who was the other studs or other guys?
I forget. They had some young guys that were throwing on like the midweek games or out the bullpen that ended up being first rounders or top 4 round guys. Right. So I'm not saying they don't compare to the depth, but that's like from experience. The only teams I've played it's like, oh, okay.
Right.
There's no break.
Yeah, they're pretty good.
Well, I think that's something you see in the SEC a lot I won't say a lot, but you're more likely to run into a team who has probably a dominant Friday, a dominant Saturday, a very, very, very serviceable Sunday, and maybe an arm or 2 out the pen that's straight up dominant. Like that's a recipe we've seen before. I think this one's got a chance to do a lot more than that. And from the stuff standpoint of it by itself, you don't see this every year. You definitely don't see this from team to team.
They had, I'll take that back. It was 2 first rounders, a second rounder, and they had Jack Armstrong. So they had
4 guys.
4 guys.
That's my point. Like it's this many guys with this much with this kind of stuff. It's a problem. It's tough for a team or teams to actually face that at this level every time you run up against LSU right now.
Yeah, just for perspective, the college baseball team strikeout totals are Arkansas Razorbacks with 163, and they had that ungodly performance where he struck out, 15 and
17 of 18.
Yeah, 17 of 18.
Well, LSU had 20 the other night. So
yeah, that gets you back to kind of even.
Yeah.
LSU baseball at 154. Hail State at 144, which is obviously Mississippi State. This is just their Twitter handles. And then FSU baseball, Florida State at 140. So
those are the top 4 teams in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that was the one thing we talked about, right? And I think people are going to really start, like the national media and like the people who cover college baseball, you're going to start to hear them talk more about the depth of LSU. Yeah. I think they know how good it could be, but they're just not real sure. Yeah. I think you're going to start hearing more of that conversation because they talk about, the best rotations in the SEC or best pitching staffs in the SEC, Arkansas. Right. LSU is not really mentioned in the top.
Because you don't have as well as Holman's done, the Arkansas pitcher is grabbing so many headlines with his performance that it's easy to put one.
Right.
Yeah. I also think too, I would make the argument for the LSU side of things that because they have so many guys, because Jay's doing so much to work all of them in, you may not be seeing them at the top of their game. Like Holman's come out the gate like crazy, right? But as far as for these guys, as far as for these guys that are coming out of the pen, meaning like they're not going to go out there for extended innings and they're maybe not going to pitch as regularly as a starter would, you may not be seeing those guys rolling yet. I think it may be a while until those guys get rolling and they get a chance to kind of get a feel for what they're doing throughout the year. Starters are different, right? Starters, they know when they're pitching. They're pretty much going to pitch until a scheduled spot of where they are, and that's how it is. The bullpen doesn't get that. So for these guys to kind of keep going, I think the best is yet to come in front of them.
Yeah.